Nice. Welcome everybody to the RedDeathMask stream. Um Perfect timing. I'm cleaning the fuck out of my place. Hell yeah, Danny. That's what I'm here for, is to give you um something to listen to while you do that spring cleaning. Hell yeah. You are early, Harold Sleeper, or you're just right on time. I don't know. Time is relative, so who knows? What is up, IK? Um 9467. Hello. Welcome. I want to start off by watching the Backrooms trailer. I've already seen it, as I assume most people have. But it's just very exciting. Uh is it Kane? It's Kane Pixels, right? It's not here. I'll see. Yeah, Kane Pixels, yeah. Um YouTuber, not creator of the Backrooms, but I think you could argue like popularizer, if that's a word, of the Backrooms. He certainly has the most popular online series about the Backrooms, and he's made some other really cool stuff too, like the Rolling Giant series, which I don't know if that ever still continued or if he will continue it, but I'm pretty stoked. Have you seen that Local 58 is back? I have not. I have not seen that. Harvey, you should maybe send me the link. Cuz I would like to check that out. Send it on Discord or whatever. But yeah, I mean, this movie's gonna kick ass. What I think I'm the most excited for is, like, yes, it's going to be just a movie that a person can watch, I think, knowing nothing about the Backrooms or any of the lore. But I do also think, from like some of the videos I've watched and stuff, that it's also going to be a continuation of some of the stuff that he's already established in the series, like with like this little guy with the entity or whatever it's called, and stuff like that, and the company that was like arguably created it or opened the portal that started the whole thing. I forget it's what the company's name was, like not Semiodyne. That's from Greylock, but yeah, and so that's kind of what I'm most excited for. I think would be to see him maybe tie in the old lore kind of working in the new format. But I think it's going to be a great movie. I'm really excited to see it. And I just want to watch the trailer because it's going to kick ass. And it's a horror movie made um, with like a YouTube, let's say a YouTuber's like passion for the lore that's been established, right, going into this. It's not your typical kind of horror movie. Like, Hollywood gets a hold of these ideas and they go, we need to make something horror Backrooms related, and so they'd call it, like, they wouldn't call it the Backrooms, they might call it something else, and they just end up fucking it up, and they'd make it like, they'd make it kind of like an action movie or something, where it's just like, oh wow, he's walking on the ceiling and all this other weird stuff. And so much of the liminal horror space, it is like the eeriness of it, right? It is the fact that it's like found footage, handheld camera stuff usually, but it gives you the sense that, like, you, the viewer, are the one walking around it. And if you just made a movie that was all like, shot on cameras, and there was like a big cast of people exploring this whole, other dimension, it just wouldn't work. And what I uh like about, the back rooms and what this trailer did is they just kind of established this specific portal that this group of people like is entering the back rooms through, that they find the zone, whatever that is, where the door is marked off. And other than that, it's not like there's going to be a ton of people going in and out, or there's not going to be like a quest to find somebody, at least not at first, right? I think a lot of these stories would be like, oh, I lost my so and so in this thing. And that's why we have to explore it. It would have to make the stakes like higher, other than there's just this weird portal to another dimension in the back of the store, and we have to figure out what the fuck is going on with this because it's unbelievable. You know what I mean? I feel like too often Hollywood tries to make it, they're like, well, we have to make it a love story too, or we have to make it we have to give people a reason to care. And it's like, I already care about the other dimension that opened up in the back of a broken down furniture store or whatever. Like, that's already interesting enough to me. You don't need to fucking, yes, a story needs like characters and other stuff to make you care. Like, it helps to care about the characters, but with this type of movie, I feel like there were a lot of ways that Hollywood could have fucked it up. And I'm just so happy that like A24 came in and partnered obviously with Kane Pixels and let him direct it, and basically let him do what we already know he could do so well via the YouTube videos, but just on a larger scale. I think it's really important for like the future of movies and horror and Hollywood in general. Like, Hollywood needs to take note of what A24 is doing just in general, but especially with this movie, and they need to replicate that more. And big studios need to quit trying to make $1 billion movies, or even you know movies that cost $500 million to make but then gross 3 billion or whatever it is. Like, they need to stop trying to do that, because they almost never happen anymore. Avengers has been kind of over for a while, and even with movies like Barbie and stuff, it's like, yeah, you can make a lot of money. People are still going to see movies in theaters, but if you just invest like a normal amount of money, especially like if you're speaking in terms of like 20 years ago, like plenty of movies were made for like $20 million. But studios don't want to do that anymore, and they want to make, a movie that's everything in between. And it's like, it needs to be funny, it needs to have superheroes, it needs to have this and that, and like, and so I would like to see like studios adopt the A24 method, where movies don't cost as much. They also don't need to have the biggest actors in the world in them. Like, it's fine if there's relatively, maybe not no names, but you know what I mean. Just not the highest paid actors in Hollywood. And then on top of that, just support like somebody who has a vision, who isn't just a director looking for a job, or a writer looking to sell a script, but they like are passionate about that specific project. And even if they haven't made something to that scale before, like, find the person who is really, really passionate about it, and support them. And I hope A24 and studios like that start to do the same thing with comedies and stuff like that. And they don't need huge budgets, but like, comedy movies are dead in a lot of terms. Like, there's hardly any like theatrical releases and stuff for for comedies, and it just sucks. Like I'm just happy to see a YouTuber get a movie made. Obviously, like Bring Her Back and Talk to Me are another good example of this, but I think this one has the potential at least to really like change the landscape of just horror and Hollywood, and how popular can an because A24 is still seen as this like it's a big studio, but it's still seen as the cool kind of underground, what is that, like punk rock studio. And I think that this movie could break out though and be totally mainstream and do really well in the theaters as well as just really well in general. So here, let's get to some of the comments and then we'll watch the trailer. Oh, oops. God damn it.
I found.
And basically said it's an extent he's going to try making a 10-episode streaming miniseries to round things off. That's awesome. That's so good to hear, Harold. Oh, I saw the TV Glow for around 5 million. They also did Hereditary a few years ago. Yeah, no, and I mean A24. Yeah, they did Hereditary. They did Midsummer. So it's not like A24 doesn't already make bangers. They do. They're my favorite. If I was trying to get a job in Hollywood right now, or if they're just the only studio that I would be really excited to work for, because they seem to be, first of all, they want to make good and interesting shit. They also want to make like popular shit, but they're one of the few whose studios who isn't just doing a reboot or a remake of an existing IP that's nostalgia bait bullshit that's just designed to, like, they're taking risks, and also they're finding new stories to tell, which I think that may sound like kind of like a dumb kind of simple statement, but I think if you look at a lot of the movies being made nowadays, like, not a lot of them are telling new stories really at all. Like, it's a remake, it's a repeat of something that already exists or has existed, or it's a biopic, which, yeah, granted, it's like, oh, well, it's a biopic of a different person. There hasn't been a biopic of them yet. And it's like, well, it's still just another biopic. Whereas the Backrooms, I think, will be something different. I mean, the YouTube series was certainly different. And so, yeah, I just am really excited. And I'd be really excited to see, as Harold just pointed out, like a mini series. That sounds awesome. Like, I think this would be an awesome way to get more people, like this movie would get more people into the genre, and then a TV series could come out too, and really just explore it farther and explore it from other angles and different people, right? I think that would be killer. Both are great and take what they have and make the best of it. They also did try comedy with a movie called Friendship with Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd. Yeah, I started watching Friendship. I don't know. I just think maybe Tim Robbins isn't my cup of tea, because I didn't really like, there were some parts that I giggled at, like, with Friendship, and it was just and it was like cringe comedy, and I got that, but I don't know. It just, like, Friendship didn't do it for me, but yeah, I still, I just hope they do it more. You know what I mean? I hope that because comedies used to be the thing where it's like you can make them relatively cheap, and even if the returns aren't that great, it's not this big risk. So, like, studios would make like 5 or 10 maybe comedies every however many years, and half of them they wouldn't make their money back on, but then half of them they would. But then also with things like DVD releases and stuff afterwards, it's like everyone I knew growing up had a Talladega Nights DVD, had a like these are movies that you would go over to your friends' houses, and almost everybody who had DVDs had these movies. And so it's like they can make money a lot of ways. And even now with streaming, it's like, yeah, things are different, but I still think there's a plethora of like talent and people out there who could be making movies if only a studio would come along and be like, yeah, like the Machine movie, the Burt Kreischer movie. I really liked it. Some people didn't like it. I thought it was good. Um, but that movie, like, it shouldn't have taken as long as it did to make and to get like studios to come along. And now, like Tom Segura got his Netflix show, Bad Thoughts and stuff like that. But it's still seen as like risky or whatever because these things aren't like super duper mainstream popular, that like studios don't want to risk it because they just want everything has to be a um like zeitgeist entering meme that permeates every crevice of American culture. Otherwise, it's not a success. If it doesn't go viral, it's not a success. And it's like, I just think that it stifles a lot of like innovation and creativity when they only try to make things that are going to be gigantic blockbusters. You know what I mean? But yeah, I've seen the TV Glow. I liked it. Um, I liked that. Yeah, and I saw it on Netflix, but yeah, I think it was A24. I saw the TV Glow. And then yeah, okay, and then Friendship. Yeah, I already talked about that. That's the best part of horror, in my opinion, is that it could be anything. It really can be calm or over the top, depending. But you can legit make anything scary. Yeah, very very true, Danny. It taps really into both. And then you have movies like like Zola, which I haven't seen, but it taps well into horror and comedy. And yeah, I tend to like those a lot too. Like I like a movie that bends genres and doesn't quite stay in one lane or the other. I think that was one of the best parts about Sinners, that like Sinners blew up and became kind of viral, but I think what Sinners did that I liked that I don't think that many people talked about was that it was a gangster movie. So you had like the people who grew up watching like Scarface, watching Blow, watching insert, gangster movie here. I mean, there's so many versions of it. There's like the Wolf of Wall Street type movies where it's like the white collar gangster criminal, whatever. There's but you know, then there's like the cop dramas like Departed and stuff like that. But I always loved those movies growing up. Those are some of my favorite uh movies for sure. And then you had that mixed in with the horror and the other genre, and that was what was so cool about Sinners to me. And so I love when movies do that with comedy too. I'm trying to think of an example right now, but it's just kind of escaping me. I'll think of one at some point. But anyways, stuff like Dale and Tucker or just whatever, where they take, the point is for it to be funny, but they're doing it in a horror setting that makes the stakes also really fun because people are gonna die and people are gonna, you know, be shit's gonna go crazy in that sense. So anyways, enough rambling. Let's watch the trailer and then we'll get into some horror stories.
In the store.
Okay. What did you find?
The place. I found a place.
हम जमीन के रहने वालों की तरफ से
Hello?
आपको खुश आमदीद कहते हैं।
Anyone there?
Oh, I'm so excited.
Sounds, but you gotta understand, it's massive in there.
I'm not saying I don't believe you.
Okay, I'm gonna come back here with proof. All right, you feel me?
Yeah.
Follow my lead.
Clark, what is this?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I've been here every night since I found the place, and I still barely scratched the surface. All right, just take it slow. Oh my God. Pull me up, pull me up, pull me up! What do you see? All these rooms. This place builds them. It's like a maze. It just goes on and on. Sometimes I'm scared I'll get lost.
Clark, can you hear me? I don't understand. What is this?
It's beautiful. Am I right?
Hello?
Oh, so exciting. I can't fucking wait. So good. And yeah, I think what I'm maybe just most excited for is like what conclusions are reached in the movies that probably people speculated for from just watching the YouTube videos, right? That like people have speculated about and guessed, but like what theories are confirmed and what theories are kind of maybe disproven or whatever. Because you watch all sorts of different ones. I've also, I've been trying to watch a few videos about like what other iterations of the backrooms have what's the lore outside of what just Kane did, right, in his backrooms, like what other lore was part of it. And yeah, I cannot wait. I cannot wait to figure it out or to just watch. And maybe the movie won't answer a lot of questions, maybe it won't. I doubt it will. It will probably leave us with just as many questions, but I'm still really cannot wait. The plot really reminds me of House of Leaves in a way, of people trying to prove and document the existence of an otherworldly labyrinth that shouldn't exist. I love that aspect. Yeah, and I haven't finished House of Leaves, but I have been recently listening to it, and that's kind of what I was talking about with, and I haven't gotten to this point yet, but I'm pretty sure there's been enough foreshadowing in House of Leaves that I'm pretty sure somebody gets lost in it, right? Because when Will Navidson goes in for the first time, when he really goes in, he almost gets lost, and it's only the sound, right, of his daughter calling, and that's the only way he's able to get back. And it is like, I mean, it's changed, it's a totally liminal space in House of Leaves. Like, he walks down a hallway, puts like a quarter there or whatever, something from his pocket, and then goes the other direction trying to figure out his way out, and then he steps right on back into that coin. So it's literally one of these places that defies physics and logic, and you can't get out unless, I guess, the sound is maybe the only way he had of getting out. Which, at least on that first, and that's kind of where I left off, was kind of pretty soon after that first time. But shit gets good. It's my favorite book. I'm just shocked there's an audiobook version. Yeah, it's a YouTuber that actually did it. I mean, it's not an official audiobook, so maybe that's the thing, but he reads it, and he actually does a really good job. Like, I don't know who this guy is. I should shout him out one of these times, but if you just Google like House of Leaves audiobook on YouTube, you just search that, I think you'll find it, and it's definitely, I like it. I think he does a good job. I think it's hard. It's a hard book for there to be an audiobook because, as people have said, there's footnotes that go on so long. So I'm a little confused as to like what parts are the blind guy's writings, the blind old man, which part are the guy who's reading his writings and stuff like that. So it is kind of confusing to listen to it as an audiobook, but I'm still enjoying it. And that's what a lot of people say about House of Leaves, if you've watched reviews of it and stuff, is people say like there's a lot of other like footnotes and just other weird stuff. There's that one section where it's just listing names of photographers for like a long ass time. There's stuff like that, but it's worth it. It just for the Davidson record and everything surrounding that, it's totally worth it. And it has been so far for me. I'm kind of taking my time with it because it is one of those things that I'm like, I could just binge listen to this, but yeah, I don't want to get it completely. I want to be able to chew on it for a while. It's one of those things that I'm always excited to turn on. So, but one thing I was going to say is I like the element of this where they're exploring it and they're trying to document it and show the back rooms. But what I also like is that it doesn't seem like, I mean, maybe there's a little bit of that with the therapist, but in House of Leaves, it's very much like his wife doesn't want to be involved with it at all. And he's like, we can't just ignore this. There's a portal in our house, Navidson is like, it's very much causing conflict in a marriage that was already contentious, and that's like a lot of that book explores that too, and explores like loneliness in the confines of like a relationship and stuff like that. And yeah, I think that what I like about the Backrooms is that it's like, I feel like in a shittier version of the movie, the therapist wouldn't immediately go in and like find the back rooms too and start exploring it with him, but it seems like that's what happens, at least at some point in this movie. Like the therapist understands, whereas I feel like a lot of this movie, it would just be like, I'm not crazy, and that would be like half of the conflict of the movie would just be about him trying to convince people that it's real, you know what I mean? And that, and that's what I like, is that it seems like in this movie, like very quickly people are like getting on board and they're like, what the fuck is this, you know what I mean? And yeah, so I like that, at least from the trailer. That's the impression that I get. The blind guy's writings are the story of Navidson's. Yeah, all the footnotes of the guy reading it are the ones where he talks about his addiction and hookups. Yeah, but that guy, it is interesting, right? Because he talks about addiction and hookups, but he's also kind of talking about like there is a point where he's like or there are points that I'm getting into where like he's being affected by the readings of it, and he also seems like he's working at the tattoo shop, and he goes upstairs for ink, and like it seems like the monster or whatever, if there is a monster in the house, it seems like it's like attacking him, or it's causing him to do something. Like I don't know if he just faints or what happens, but that is of the guy reading the the footnote, So anyways, yeah, so it's interesting, right? There's stuff going on. That's the thing about House of Leaves, is like there's three levels of narrative kind of. There's there's the narrator's like life and him talking about his life and him finding these writings. There's him talking about the old man and his impressions of the old man and everything else. And then there's the old man describing the Davidson records, which are these tapes, right? These tapes that have baffled society, and most people think that they're fake and all this stuff. And yeah, it's really interesting because it has all those layers. But yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm stoked for the back rooms. I'd be stoked for House of Leaves if they ever did anything with that. Again, it's just another example of there's this amazing book that like a lot of people really call like one of the best horror adventure whatever type novels ever. It defies like categorization even. And it's like for some reason, Hollywood would rather just remake whatever 7 times, Insidious, or whatever, 4 or 5 times before they're even gonna try to make something like House of Leaves. And yeah, it's just one of those things where I just go like, God, is it just, it's just the business side of it that sucks, and it just pisses me off. But anyways, I don't want to keep rambling about that. Let's get on to our first story. So I think for today, I can either start with well, yeah, I Got Warts in the thumbnail. Or not in the thumbnail, in the description. It's pretty short, so I guess we'll just read this one to get warmed up. But then we're gonna jump right into part 5 of the funeral mound, or the festival mound, sorry, and we're gonna read that to the end. So we're gonna finish a festival mound, but first we can just get a little bit warmed up with I Got Warts, which funny title. I thought about calling my stream I Got Warts just for like a clickbaity title, but yeah, anyways, I think this is by a new author, one I haven't read before, Dole_AD4051. This is their only post from what I can tell. They posted it in my calling all authors post on Tales from the Creep. So they posted it on that. But from what I can tell, they haven't written any other stories. They haven't. They're not very active on Reddit, from what I can tell. So, this will be interesting. We don't really know anything about it. We know it's a pretty short little story. Could be funny. Could be terrifying. We really don't know. But let's get into it. The scratchy voice yelled down to me. Okay. No, kid. I can't come down there. I got warts. The scratchy voice yelled down to me. Warts? How can a wart stop you from walking down a couple stairs? He bellowed again. Warts? I got warts on my warts, and they scream at me like nasty warts do. Can you just throw it down? I defeatedly asked, but with no answer. I kicked a stone just across the cement pathway ahead, looking back up towards the dull lemon brick building. Looks like I'm not getting my ball. Okay, so it's a kid. Okay, pause here for a second. So it's a kid who his ball went to like a neighbor's yard, and he's calling up at the neighbor, and the neighbor's yelling that he can't get the ball because he has warts, which is kind of funny. I mean, it's a unique excuse. Most old people that didn't want to give me my frisbee or my ball back as a kid just wouldn't answer the door. So I think it's at least nice that this guy or this person is talking to the kid. There was one house where we lived where we lost a few things over the fence, and the lady had a little dog too, I remember, but it was just one of those things where, like, if something went into our backyard, we just knew we weren't going to get it back. We didn't even try anymore. Because the one time one of us did hop the fence and go and like got our ball back, she got all upset about it. She said that, I forget what she said, but she had told my parents, and it was one of my brothers who had like jumped in the backyard or whatever, but she had said that they were trying to break into her house, and that she was gonna call the cops on us if that happened again. So it just became a rule at my house, I remembered, where we were like, if it goes into that yard, it's gone, you know? We just have to get a new one, and it kind of is what it is. So yeah, I know, maybe this person isn't being the most pleasant, but at least they're giving a reason, and it sounds like they have a pretty good reason. I know plenty of old curmudgeon-y people that just would say, it's my ball now, you know what I mean? Like, they just don't care. A hand waved angrily outside the shattered window as a man yelled once more, "This is my property, kid. I'm too old for yelling at thieving tricksters." "Tricksters?" I hollered back. "Sorry, sir, but I'm no trickster. I just want my ball. Honest." So did it break the window? If it broke the window, I mean, I would not have stayed around. I would have ran, you know? I feel like that's what you do as a kid. So the fact that he stayed to try to get his ball back if he broke the window is crazy. Or maybe the window's just already broken, but it says the shattered window, so I don't know. The tawny hand yanked itself back inside the sliver. A few moments passed, and right as I stepped onto my bike, I heard another scratch back at me. "Bring me some snacks and you'll get your stupid ball." Placing one foot back on the ground, I yelled up, "Snacks? Can't you just order pizza or something, sir?" He wailed back. "All the pizza men hate me. They hate my warts. They run off screaming like the devil's on them as soon as I stick my warty toes out the door." Ugh, gross. Well, why would you stick your toes out the door? Oh, I see. He's meaning like step outside. Okay. I thought he was saying like he would answer the door with his feet. I'm like, what? As soon as I stick my warty toes out the door, shrugging, my leg pushed off the cracked ground as I pedaled out from the alley. If he wants a snack, I guess I'll get him a snack. It was a terribly cloudy day. It rained yesterday, and the sky still wasn't quite over it. Dark cars were zooming by me as I began to desperately sprawl my eyes out. Someone has got to be selling fruit today, I thought. With musty air blowing through my hair, I relished at the memory of playing sick. Every other kid is at school, and I'm out enjoying the day. Even if I was looking for some old guy's food, it's better than being at school. And I did eventually find some fruit. Some really smelly fruit, honestly. After a good half hour of biking through this half-dead complex, I had come to terms with losing my ball. Scooping up a couple jelly-like brown apples, I tossed them into a road-run plastic bag at my side. The person living in the house obviously didn't want them. So he found like some crab apples or something. That's funny. Biking back, I did feel the oncoming prick of guilt. I hated being mean, and this guy really didn't do anything wrong. I was the one who broke his window. Did feel the oncoming prick of guilt. I hated being mean, and this guy really didn't do anything wrong. I was the one who broke his window. Not me, but who cares? I don't know. That line's confusing. It says, unless I'm reading it wrong. Here, 1 second. This guy really didn't do anything wrong. I was the one who broke his window, comma, not me, but who cares? See, I think he's saying that he broke the window, but then I just don't understand. Is he saying he did break the window or he didn't? Because then he says, not me, but who cares? So maybe it was one of his friends or something. Like they did break the window, but it wasn't him. The nagging feeling was overcome at the sly idea of the guy's reaction upon opening the bag. Just a little joke. It wouldn't hurt his feelings or anything. The crooked, half caved in building blew up in my sight as I took a hard left into the maze of identical buildings. The image of the high shattered window flashed repeatedly between the dull charcoal roofs in front of me. Just leave it at the door, the wrinkly and rusty hand waved at me. Leave for 5 minutes, then come back for your ball. Once the hand was done, I promptly slung. Once the hand was done, meaning being outside or whatever, I promptly slung the saucy bag at the foot of the white door, knocking on the door twice. I grabbed my bike and ran just behind a shriveled telephone pole. It was only about 20 yards away, and if I peeked slightly from the side, I could see the paint chipped doorway. Not the best hiding spot, but if you weren't looking for me, you surely wouldn't find me. All I had to do was wait for his shouty reaction and get a good laugh at his bumpy body. That's funny. And I did wait for 15 minutes. No movement, no sound. Just the still plastic in front of the rigid door. Sometimes I glanced up toward the empty hole in the window, but there was nothing there either. Only once the clouds overhead began to darken did I finally turn back behind the pole. Sighing, I took a quick glance at my phone and decided to take one last peep before I went. The door was swinging to and fro meekly, the dark contents within blinking at me. As the swings got shorter and heavier, I was shocked to see the empty piece of cement where the bag once laid. Once I shakingly blinked a few times, the door finally clicked shut. Under the window, a muffled voice yelled down at me, "Take your ball." The words were spliced at some points to give him leeway to chew. "You earned it, kid." Came after a swallow. A small, dull, and slimy red ball pitifully rolled off the window's edge and bounced twice before me. I didn't bother to take the ball. I slung myself over my bike as I cried and pedaled off. Hundreds of jerky textured arms poked outside the windows and waved as I left. Interesting. So it's a multi-armed, maybe it's multiple creatures, or maybe it's a creature with one arm. But that's kind of fun. I kind of like the the Sandlot-esque like childhood you know, mystique of like it's an urban legend, or it's a local legend. It's the Boo Radley kind of a character. It's the old man that kind of everyone fears, or nobody has seen in a long time, and he's got warts, or he's got, it's the classic kind of witch stereotype of just the person who lives, on the edge of town or in the creepy neighborhood or whatever. And then it turns out that it's not even, it's not even human, or it's less human, or maybe it's like multiple creatures. People don't even understand, the myth that the neighborhood makes up to kind of explain what is wrong with this person doesn't even come close. Like the guy says he has warts, but really it's like a whole family of little goblin troll things that live in the house. That's fun. I think as far as like the horror goes, I don't think it was really that scary until like the end with the parts with the hundreds of arms, or the fact that he's like eating the rotten apples, and you can hear the chewy, you can hear him chomping and chewing on them like that. That's a little unsettling. But I feel like this would be a good story, or like a version of this story would be a good story for a scary story to tell kids, right? Like I feel like kids would get a kick out of this story because they could relate to it. And also just having that little twist at the end that it's like he gets the apples without him even noticing it, and then the guy still will give him the ball at the end, but then the boy doesn't even want it anymore. That's fun. I think that's really fun. That's cool. I like that. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. We are on to That Was I Got Warts. From Dolad 4051. Let's move on to here I want to say is from OssuaryNelms. We have the Festival Mound. Story Too Intense for No Sleep. Now it's complete in its complete uncensored form. And we're gonna read the Substack version here, but you guys need a recap? Does anyone need a recap, or did everyone who's currently here on my stream listen to the last one? Sorry, I got a fucking fruit fly hanging around. Damn it. Anyways, It kind of reminds me of that scene in Uzumaki where they're trying to get into the house, and when they open the door, all the bodies are like tied onto each other. Oh shit. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what I like about the twist of that story is it's subtle, but it's like um not the Uzumaki story, but the one we just read is that it's like at first you're like, well, gross, he has warts, or whatever, like, it's an old witch or something that has warts. But then it's like, no, it's a multi-armed creature that eats rotten fruit and will make deals with children, you know what I mean, to give them their ball back. Like, yeah, at the end you're kind of like, oh my god, and that's what's kind of fun about it is it's still kind of whimsical and like, and it doesn't quite tell you, like, it doesn't fully show its hand of what the creature is or anything like that, but it's just enough to where you understand why the narrator is like, I didn't even want my ball, I just left and never went back, sort of a thing. um and yeah, it kind of reminds me of that same feeling that I have with the old lady who didn't want us in her yard or whatever, like as a kid, where it's like, she threatened to call the cops on you and whatever else. And I don't remember if this is what happened, but it's like she said we tried to kidnap her dog or whatever, you know what I mean? Um, and so it kind of reminds me of that sort of a thing where you're like, I don't know, the person is just so creepy or so mean or so whatever that it's just not worth it. I don't even want my ball anymore, sort of a thing. That's fun. I'll have to watch, or is it, you said it's the scene in Uzumaki. Yeah, I'll have to, I watched Wendigoon's video on Uzumaki, and I guess I just need to watch like whatever I can because I don't read. Uh, is it Junji Ito is like the manga, and then Uzumaki is the show, or I don't know. Anyways, but I want to experience some of those stories. I just haven't had the time, or I don't know exactly where to find them, but I definitely need to check them out because obviously Hunter and Isaiah both love Uzumaki, talk about it a lot. I think there is a Netflix show, right? That's the Spiral one. I think, I don't know. Anyway, but so just a brief summary. Dude moves to a new town uh for a new better job. Gets there, the place is closed down. Oh, HBO. Okay, HBO. Nice. Maybe that's what I'll watch tonight. I'll see what I can put on. Depends on if me and the missus are gonna watch something together. But so this guy moves to this new town for a better job. Turns out the place is completely shut down. He doesn't have a new job. He doesn't have enough money to leave, really. He's in no kind of, he's kind of stuck, right? He doesn't have enough money to leave. He can't like afford to even stay at a hotel or like leave his house, really, even. um this One neighbor mentions to him that on the day of the winter festival, just stay in your house and don't look outside, don't look out the windows. That freaks him out. A bunch of other stuff start to freak him out. Everyone everyone in the town is kind of always staring at him and just being like, you're from away, you're not supposed to be here, and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it's just an overall hostile, creepy kind of atmosphere. And then he, as almost a godsend out of nowhere, this lady's like, well, I'll give you, like $100 or a few $100 or something if you move all the stuff out of my basement and like haul it to the dump, things that I want to throw away. And he's like, of course, that would be great. I'm looking for work, And the lady just came over and offered that to him. He didn't ask her, but he did ask somebody out like the post office, if there's any places that are hiring. And so he does that. Her Mrs. Dunsley is her name. Yeah, he was over at her house and he finds newspaper that's like packed in a box, like old newspaper for packing. And there's all these disappearances on this same day of this winter festival every year. Or maybe not every year, but in the past there have been several different disappearances, always like one or maybe multiple people, and I think they're all people who were not from the area, right? Who came from out of town. So he's like, oh fuck, I'm next. He's really freaking out. He's really scared. He goes out and he physically sees this mound, and it's like by the like town hall, and there's people like doing something to it, like uncovering it, or it's like it almost seems like it's like some sort of a statue or some sort of like a town like tradition, or like how people will decorate a certain area or whatever, just something like that, where he's like, oh, that's kind of weird, I wonder what they're doing with that. But then like he goes to look at it one night or something, and like the people run him off. They get like really like, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, I'm just going for a walk. And they're like, walk then, get out of here, kind of a thing. And so that's creepy too. And all this just kind of serves to unsettle him more. And then he wakes up one morning when he's trying to finish helping Mrs. Dunsley, and his truck is completely sabotaged. Like they took his alternator or something. Like it's not just, oh, my truck broke down. It's definitely intentional. Finally, he calls his buddy, and finally he shows up, and then they're trying to leave the town, and turns out all the 3 ways to exit town are closed off. Like, there is no way to leave. The police have blocked one way. The way up in the mountains, there's all this construction equipment blocking the road. It's completely impassable. And then on the other way out of town, there's like a fallen tree. And they're like, oh, well, the wind knocked it over last night. And he's like, there wasn't any wind last night. And they're like, we'll get it out as soon as possible, but it might take a few days, kind of a thing. And this is all now leading up to, I think it's maybe like the day before the winter solstice, or it's coming up really close. So they're like, now we're going to be stuck here on the night when we know everyone gets killed, or people are supposed to disappear. And so it's him and his friend now stuck in this town in Maine, I believe. And yeah, things are really creepy. It's pretty much only until the very end of this last part of part 4 do we get any indication that maybe it's not the people that are like looking to sacrifice him in some weird winter festival ritual or something. But now there's like they see that. Oh, and the other thing is he goes to Mrs. Dunley's house. He's like knocking on her door to try to tell her that he's not going to be able to finish doing the work because his truck got vandalized, and she's like won't answer the door. And he's like, I knew she was in here. I saw her looking out the windows. Like, that's so weird. Sorry, I think I had a cat hair in my mouth. But anyways, and so yeah, he's basically like, why won't she answer the door now? Like, her car's here. I see she's home. And so it's kind of weird, and he's like, maybe that was all a trick for her to, she was trying to get me out of my house so that they could fuck with my truck. And he doesn't know who he can trust, but his buddy's here now. And then they finally get back home after driving around trying to leave town, figuring out everything's closed. And then here, I'm just going to read the end of part 4 so that you guys we can all be on the same page about what this new threat or this new information kind of is. His buddy, who I'm trying to remember his name, I think his name's Carl. Yeah, the realization that we were trapped. He reached into his jacket and pulled something out, a pistol. He set it on the coffee table between us. I brought this just in case. Figured with your truck getting vandalized and everything, better to be prepared. I stared at the gun. Black brushed metal. The weight of it on the table somehow made the room feel less suffocating. Thank you. Yeah. We just sat there together in the growing dark. That's when I heard it, a sound from outside, distant but distinct, deep and wet and resonant, like nothing I'd heard before. It made something primitive in my brain want to run. Carl heard it too. We both went to the window, looked out through the gap in the curtains. Mrs. Dunley's house, directly across the street. The front door was open and the lights were off. It looked like a solid black rectangle just floating there in the cold. The sound came again, gurgling out from her house. What is that? Carl whispered. I don't know. So that's what we have. So right at the end of part 4, we kind of get this sense that, oh, what if now there's maybe a monster, maybe something got Mrs. Dunsley, or maybe the monster is Mrs. Dunsley. Maybe this isn't about them killing the out-of-towners. Maybe they are mad whenever an out-of-towner person, a person who's what they call from away. Apparently, this is a term in Maine where if you're not from like the small town in Maine that people are in, they just say you're from away. Apparently, maybe the people were being mean to him because they were like, they wanted him to leave, or they didn't, Now there are some issues with that theory. I don't think that's necessarily the case, because it does seem like the police and stuff really were a part of shutting down the town and making him stay. And so, and somebody had to have fucked with his truck, right? So it's like, clearly there are some people that I think are wanting him to stay, or, wanting the out-of-towner to get killed, because that's what always seems to happen, right? Like, we know there's been all these disappearances, all these deaths, so we know that, like, there is some danger. But then part of me was like, oh, well, maybe they just know that this monster, like, feeds on people, or feeds specifically on people from out of town. So maybe that's what it is there. Because they know people from out of town will get scared when they hear this thing, and they'll go out to investigate, and they won't stay inside like only the people who are from here know to do, So maybe that's the issue, is that they're like, these out of towners, they always go and investigate this monster and try to intervene and end up getting themselves killed, when if they just stayed inside, they would be safe, you know? Maybe it's something like that. We don't know. But it is kind of fun. It was a nice little, because I was really seeing, like, I was seeing it as more of like a Wicker Man, like it is just like a pagan, whatever, them gonna kill, and a Midsummer-esque thing where they're just gonna kill the out-of-towner, or they're gonna kill a bunch of people, and, you know, but then you have this little twist at the end of part 4 that really came just kind of at the right moment. I do have to say, as far as the series goes so far, like, it's good, it's keeping my interest, it's fun, but I do really think that the twist, or not even twist necessarily, because we don't know for sure that there's a monster, right? But it really kind of upped the ante even more, and kind of everything that we thought we knew about, like, the town trying to work against him to keep them here, it kind of throws at least some of that into doubt, right? And so it's been a very good read so far. I'm curious to get into the rest of it and see what everyone thinks. What I can tell, yeah, I mean, we got a ways to go. It's not super thick, but I'm gonna try to finish the whole thing right now. So if you guys were looking forward to me reading multiple stories, I'm sorry. I might still, depending on how long this takes, I might get into some other stuff afterwards. I just don't know. We'll just have to see. So we'll just have to see how it goes, you know what I mean? Okay, part 5, shapes. Okay. Do we need some mood music? What are we thinking, chat? What are we thinking? Do we want to put on some Max Hansen hours or something else? Or should we just read? All right, I'll start, and then we'll get in, and then I'll throw on some music if anyone has any suggestions. Part 5, shapes. We just stood there, staring at her open front door, hanging there in the freezing cold. Had to be below 0 tonight. And Mrs. Dunsley was old. She needed help, and we just sat there doing nothing. It was too much to bear. Carl and I looked at each other. We both knew. He picked up the gun. I grabbed my flashlight. We darted outside. He's being pretty harsh on himself, I feel like. And couldn't you just, like, call 911? I mean, you have to assume, like, with a door open like that in the middle of winter, you do have to assume that something must be wrong if the door is open. I agree. But I'm also like, it doesn't say we stood there for 30 minutes and waited what to do. But, like, I understand being hesitant. You think everyone in this town is trying to kill you, and also you heard some crazy noises just a second ago. So I feel like it's totally reasonable to be like, what the fuck is going on, and kind of wait to see if something happens, you know? I don't think, I'll put it this way, I don't think I'd be running out there immediately and being like, we have to help her. Especially when, like, you were knocking on her door earlier, she didn't answer, but you saw her up in the window. You're assuming that, that this isn't, that's the thing, is like, they know, they have this feeling already that this whole town is kind of conspiring against them, or definitely against our main character, and now Carl, because he's here with him. So you have that sense, right? So it makes sense to be apprehensive of everything, even if somebody's like, help, I need help. Like, they could just be trying to lure you out of the house to kidnap you. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my thing, is I'm like, be wary. Don't just run outside because you think an old lady forgot to close her front door, or the wind blew her door open. You know, we don't know what could have happened. So it's like, Carl and I looked at each other. We both knew. He picked up the gun. I grabbed my flashlight. We darted outside. The cold hit hard. Our breaths came out in thick clouds. The street was dead silent. Every house dark, just our boots crunching through the snow as we crossed. Mrs. Dunsley, I called out from her porch. It's me from across the street. Are you okay? No answer. I tried louder. We're coming in. We just want to make sure you're safe. We stepped in. I turned on my flashlight. The bright beam cutting through the shadows. My heart sank. The house was empty, completely bare. No furnitures, no pictures on the walls, no rugs or curtains, nothing. Just naked floors and blank walls. What the hell? Carl whispered. I tried the light switch, flipped it up and down again. Nothing. The power was dead, just like my truck. Mrs. Dunsley, I called out. My voice echoed in the empty rooms. We moved through the house. Kitchen stripped clean, living room bare. Every room the same, emptied, like no one had ever lived here. All her stuff was here yesterday, I said. Everything. That sound came again, this time from below, deep and resonant. So loud and heavy, I felt it in my ribs, my guts. The basement door was open, a pale light spilling up the wooden stairs. Carl raised the gun. I went first. Each step creaked and groaned, and that sound grew even louder, a deep thrumming. Then, all at once, it stopped. The basement was empty, too, everything gone. Just concrete floor and cinder block walls. Even the water heater was missing. But there was something on the floor. A slick pool of translucent fluid, oily, catching my flashlight with an iridescent sheen, like gasoline on water, and it was viscous. In the center of the basement, it was deeper, maybe an inch pooled there. And there were marks, tracks. Something had moved through it. Wide trails across the concrete. Out the bulkhead exit. Out the bulkhead exit. A pair of rusted metal doors leading outside were standing open. Moonlight and snow had blown in, melting as it fell onto the slime. I felt sick as my eyes drifted to the far end of the basement. Mrs. Dunsley's clothes sat in a neat pile, her cardigan folded precisely, her shoes placed side by side, her glass on top, everything arranged like she'd set them there herself. Carl saw it too. Jesus. Did she undress herself down here? Did someone force her? That sound erupted anew, overhead, right above us in the ceiling. Joist? I think I know that word. I think it's like a builder's term. It's just talking about things on the ceiling. I just don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Anyways, doesn't matter. The ceiling joists shook. This time another sound answered from a different part of the house. So a different sound answered from okay. This time another sound answered from a different part of the house, and another. Deep calls seeming to respond to each other, then movement. How big is this fucking house she has? It's like you heard the sound right above you, then another one from another part of the house. Interesting. The wet, heavy thumps on the floorboard over and over, multiple sources coming towards the basement stairs fast. We need to go, I said. Mrs. Dunsley? Carl shouted up. Carl, we need to go now. The thumping got louder, faster. Something was right on top of the basement stairs now, but fear overtook me. I couldn't bring myself to look. So is a bulk store is a bulkhead is the bulkhead door, is it kind of like a storm cellar? Is that's kind of what I'm picturing? Yeah, okay. Yeah. I just have never heard it called that before. Uh yeah. Um Storm cellar, I think, was always what I've heard it called. You know, and you see these in the Midwest like a lot. Like that's one thing some people, like live in an area where there aren't a lot of basements like these. And there were some growing up like this, I think, in Washington, but not really because people needed them. Like that was more. It, yeah, people have basements everywhere. That other than okay, maybe like places that flood, maybe not, but uh, yeah, it's to either get away from tornadoes or just to have like extra storage, right? And they do have these big kind of doors like that that are probably called bulkhead doors. Okay. It helps paint a picture, and that's what I was picturing, but I just wanted to be sure I was kind of correct. Um Without even thinking, we ran for the bulkhead, scrambled up and out into the snow. Carl ahead of me. I was right behind him. When my foot hit a patch of ice on the asphalt, I went down hard, slid, my flashlight spun away, the beam dancing circles in the dark. That's when I saw it. It was it was clinging to the eave of Mrs. Dunley's house, hunched against the high roof line above me. The shape was all I could see in the dark, but it was enough. It was a knotted mass of muscle and splayed limbs, dense and squat, bloated. It was staring at me. And without a sound, it leapt, one massive bound that sent it sailing over the street, over me, an inhuman silhouette against the stars, vanishing over the rooftops. I couldn't even think. My brain screamed at me to get up. I scrambled, grabbed my flashlight with shaking hands, a deep, sharp pain in my leg. I limped across the driveway. Move! Carl was at my front door, yanking it open. I ran as best I could, hit the steps. Carl shoved me through and slammed the door behind us. His hands moved fast, deadbolt, chain, every lock. We stood in the dark, breathing too hard, listening. Nothing outside, no movement, no sounds. We waited. Carl aimed the gun at the door. I pressed into the wall, my heart hammering, the pain in my leg chewing hot. Minutes crawled by, 5, 10, still nothing. Silence pressed in. My pulse started coming down. Carl set the gun on the coffee table. His hands were still shaking. Okay, he said quietly. We're inside. We're safe now. I nodded, but I couldn't speak yet. More silence, the house creaking as it settled. Carl kept watching the windows, the door. This had to be a nightmare. I just wanted to wake up. Then something else hit me. Wave of guilt. I should have told you, I said. Carl looked at me. On the phone, before you even left. I should have told you everything. Not just that I was scared, all of it. The words came faster. There's things happening here. Things I don't understand. I'm so sorry. Hey. Carl's voice was steady. It's okay. Just tell me. So I did. The mound in the field, the newspapers, all of it. Carl's face went pale as I talked. And when I finished, he was quiet for a long time. I should have. Stop. He looked at me, his expression serious but not angry. You're my friend. When you called, I could hear it in your voice. That's why I came. Forget the rest. Thanks, man. I managed. The tightness in my throat softened. Relief washed through me. It was water under the bridge now, but the fear lingered. Our need to escape this place remained. Carl stood up, started pacing. He ran through every logical explanation. Burst pipes, chemical leaks, old houses, maybe her family moved her out, maybe the power company made a mistake. He needed it to make sense, needed there to be a reason. I didn't say anything. Just let him work through it, but I knew better. We'll figure it all out in the morning, he said. Call the police or take my car and ram through one of those damn barricades. Something. Yeah, okay. Carl pulled out his phone. Actually, let's call now. Get the police here. He dialed 911, held it to his ear, waited. It's just ringing, he said after a minute. He lowered the phone, looked at the screen. I've got a signal. Why isn't anyone answering? Here, try mine. I handed him my phone. He dialed again. Same thing, just ringing, no answer. He let it go for 2 full minutes before hanging up. What the hell is going on here? He whispered. We sat there in the dark, both of us staring at our phones like they had betrayed us. Carl set his phone down, rubbed his face with both hands, then silence stretched. And in the quiet, all I could think about was what I had seen. That shape on the roof, the leap across the sky. I needed to know if Carl had seen it too. Needed to know I wasn't losing my mind. You see anything? I asked slowly when we were running back. Oh, why? When I fell, I looked up and there was something on Mrs. Dunsley's house. Jumped away. Didn't get a good look. Jumped? No? What was it? I tried to find the right words. My mouth open, closed. Thought you saw it too. I don't know. It was too dark. Some kind of animal, but it was big. The way it moved, I stopped, couldn't finish. I could see him trying to picture it, trying to understand, but he hadn't seen it, and without seeing it himself, the description meant nothing. Maybe a deer, he said finally. I seen them jump pretty far when they're spooked. I didn't argue. He picked up his phone again, stared at it blankly. I should try Kate, let her know I'm okay. He dialed, held it to his ear. After he lowered it, same shit. Sat in silence. We sat in the silence more after that, neither of us speaking. I just kept thinking about the shape. That thing on the eave. The horrid outline of those limbs. One leap that carried it across the entire street. Thought about that sounds. Wet, terrible croaking. I thought about Mrs. Dunsley's clothes. I thought about what was out there right now, trying to look inside, get inside things, and more than one, calling to each other. I looked at the window, at the gap in the curtains. I couldn't see anything in the blackness outside, but I knew they were there. And when the sun came up, I could only hope they'd be gone. Part 6, Upside Down, December 28th. So I think this is when they said the festival was. I thought it was the 26th, but maybe it was the 28th. Yeah, okay. It is the 28th. Okay. Part 6, Upside Down, December 28th. The date stared back at me from my phone screen when I woke up. Today. It was today. We'd been trapped in my house for days. Carl and I both looked like hell, unshaven, unwashed. The living room was a disaster of empty coffee cups and frozen pizza boxes. Carl had been sleeping on the couch with the gun next to him. I'd been taking shifts by the window, watching. Still couldn't make any calls. We tried every few hours for days. Nothing. The nights had gotten worse. So much worse. Those sounds outside. Deep vibrating calls that rattled the windows. Sometimes close, sometimes far. Always answering each other. And the movement. Wet, heavy slaps on the street, on the roof, against the side of the house. Searching for a way in. Carl believed me now. Understood. Seen their shadows moving between the streetlights. The same shapes. Things that were too big and moved in ways we knew were wrong. Not animal, not human. So I'm almost thinking that, like, multiple, if not everyone in this town is one of these creatures. It doesn't quite explain why all the stuff in her house would just be gone. Maybe it's because she knows she's, like, changing. That could be it. It's like, maybe this is, like, a permanent thing, and then, yeah, I don't know, like, and then, like, they all go into the mound on the last day or something, like they're awake for like 3 days or something before. I don't know. I'm definitely curious to find out, but it's fun because we don't fully know. I'm thinking could be werewolves. I'm thinking, it's definitely like a night crawlery sort of thing, but like it also stands to reason that like you can't be a were creature. You can't be like and just be out in the daytime. So maybe it's yeah, just something, could be a lot of things, right? And then I also find myself wondering here if they because they've been in the house together now for a few days. What are the days like? Are they just sleeping all day, or during the day are they still seeing people moving about? Is there still townspeople going about their lives, or is the town now dead? Is it like every house is abandoned? You know what I mean? That's a question I find myself asking. We barely talked anymore. What was there to say? During the day, we'd go outside, walk the streets. The townspeople were out less and less. Okay, so here we go. Perfect. It was just about to answer my question. That's the issue with reading and reacting live is sometimes you're like, I want this to happen, and then immediately it does happen. But that's good. That just means that like me and the writer are kind of on the same page in terms of like, well, and this is what else is going on, it does seem like maybe it's more of a mix where all the people in town know that these creatures are out and that maybe they're hunting, and that's why during this time people are just out less and less, but they do see some people. Um and yeah, and maybe like I said, maybe there's a split in the town where like some people might worship these creatures and like support them and like want to feed them or something, or maybe um the town's like elders worship them as gods, but then maybe there's other town members like our narrator's other neighbor who told him to just stay in his house, don't look out his windows, be quiet. So there's some people that say just ignore it, it won't bother you if you don't bother it, kind of a thing, you know. And it's fun. It's yeah, I'm very interested to figure out what exactly is the town's part in this. Because then the other thing was like, well, the police shut down the roads so that Carl and them couldn't leave. But then, well, you have to wonder, well, maybe they're just shutting down all the roads and not letting anyone make any calls or anything because they don't want to spread panic and they don't want people to come in, right? Because they know that there's a danger. So I still hesitate being like, oh, the town people are good, because it really seems like you would let them leave. You would let people leave if you guys were really good. I don't see how keeping these new people in the town does anything besides hurt them and, has the potential to make the townspeople more upset, But, anyways, when we did see them, they look at us with those same hollow expressions. I couldn't read them. Pity, maybe, or satisfaction? And maybe both. Maybe some people pity them. Maybe some are like happy because they're like, you're gonna feed our gods, Each morning I'd wake up and check my phone, count down the days, and each morning the number got smaller until there were none left. 28th was finally here. I got up from the couch. My whole body ached. We'd been living on adrenaline and coffee for too long. Carl was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. Morning, I said. He nodded, didn't look up. I went to the sink to splash water on my face, turned the handle, nothing. Turned it again. The pipes ground in the walls, dry rattle, then silence. Water's off, I said. Carl finally looked up. What? No water. Pipes are dry. He stood up, tried another faucet, same thing, just a hollow groan. They're cutting us off, he said quietly. We stood there in the kitchen. The house dead around us, a wooden corpse. The town was slowly shutting down everything we needed to survive. We have to leave, Carl said. Today, right now. How? Can't hike. We've been over this. My car. We rammed the barricade, force them to chase us, get the cops involved. State police, something. I don't know, anything. I heard it in his voice, that edge, the same fear I'd had on the phone with him days ago when I begged him to come. He was breaking. Carl? I can't die here, his voice cracked. My family, the kids. Kate doesn't even know where I am. I haven't talked to her. I missed Christmas, man. They probably think I'm dead. Hey, we're going to get out. I tried to keep my voice strong. All of this was my fault, but I wasn't giving up. Not on him, not on me. How do you know that? I didn't, but I couldn't say that. Because we're not going to stop, he nodded, wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Okay, yeah, let's go. Without much more thought, we grabbed our stuff, the gun, our bags, anything that mattered. The street was empty when we finally stepped outside, every house quiet. I looked at Mrs. Dunley's place as we walked to the car. Door closed now, dark, locked up tight, cute yellow siding like nothing had ever happened there. Carl started brushing snow off his hatchback, days of accumulation, eyes wide, scanning the street as he worked, clearing the windshield, the hood. His breath looked frantic in the cold. I loaded the back seat. There's only one road we haven't tried to actually get past, he said while he worked. Where we first saw that cop. We turned around before the curve. Never saw if it was really blocked or if he was just lying. And if there's another barricade, then we go through it. He opened the driver's door. We're out of options. I got in the passenger seat. Carl turned the key. The engine rolled over. Caught. He let it warm up while we sat there. I'm sorry, he said after a minute. For what? For not believing you sooner about all this. I kept trying to make sense. And I wasted time we didn't have. You're here. That's what matters. He nodded, put the car in drive, and we pulled away from the house for the last time. The drive through the town was quiet. We had passed the field on our way out. I expected to see lots of people there working on the mound again, preparing for whatever was supposed to happen today. But it was empty, deserted. A shiver climbed me slowly. Where is everyone? Carl asked. I don't know. He slowed the car. We both stared at the field through the foggy window. The dry mound was fully exposed now. All the snow cleared away, and seeing it in full daylight made my stomach sour. It was bigger than I'd realized, maybe 30 feet across, rising up from the earth like a tumor, a boil. The surface was dark, mottled, and those holes, those pock marks, they absolutely covered it. The largest had to be 3 feet wide, dark openings that went down deep into the mound. Some looked sealed over, membrane of something translucent and wet. The surface bulged grotesquely, organic, wrong, like skin that had been underwater too long. Decorations hung on the fence, red and yellow flags snapping in the wind. Wreaths of dead branches swayed lightly. The blood had left Carl's cheeks. Jesus Christ. Neither of us spoke as he accelerated past. I couldn't stop looking back at it until we turned the corner and it disappeared from view. My thoughts raced, imagining what it was, all the possibilities. I shook the thoughts away as we drove out of sight, out of town. The road was empty. No cars, no people, nothing. Carl pushed the hatchback faster. The engine whined as we picked up speed. We're really doing this, he said. Yeah. Miles passed. Finally, we came around a familiar bend in the road. There, police car, still parked sideways across the lanes. Same older officer standing next to it. He looked up as we approached. Carl, I know. His hands tightened on the wheel. Hold on. The engine screamed as he floored it. The officer's expression changed quickly as he stepped back from his car, lifted his hat, and moved towards the shoulder as we rocketed towards him. 60 miles an hour. 70, the police car getting closer. We blew past him. I saw his face flash by, shock, anger. Then he was behind us. Carl's eyes snapped in the rear view mirror. Then to me, a faint smile crossed his face. We did it. I looked back at the road. The curve. We were coming into it too fast. God damn it. I'm like, A, don't celebrate too early. And then also, I'm like, just drive the car. You know, the guy's outside of the car. Sure, he can hop in the car and chase after you. One cop is not going to be able to likely stop your hatchback. Like, you'll be able to at least get out of town first. So I'm like, lead him on a police chase. Great. You know, like, who cares? But pay attention to the road. We coming into it too fast, and suddenly there was another police car parked right in the middle of the road, just around the bend, a younger officer standing beside it. Look out! He saw, jerk the wheel. The rear of the hatchback began to slide on the ice. We overcorrected, tires lost grip completely. Then everything became a horrible slideshow. Just flashes, trees rushing toward us, Carl's hands fighting the wheel. I heard my own voice screaming, the vicious crunch of impact as we left the road, glass exploding, metal shrieking, the world spinning, another impact, and another, birch trees punching through the windshield like spears. The car was rolling. My head hit something. Everything went dark. When my vision fully came back, we were upside down. We had stopped, but my head was still spinning. I was hanging from my seatbelt, blood dripping from my face, running into my eyes. Every part of me hurt, but my leg felt wrong, really wrong. I tried to move it, and hot pain tore through me. Broken. My leg was broken. Carl. My voice came out weak. Carl, are you okay? He was hanging next to me, still strapped in, not moving, blood running down his face from a gash in on his forehead. Carl didn't respond. I couldn't reach him, but he was breathing, unconscious, still alive. Glass crunched outside the car. Footsteps in the snow, getting closer. A face appeared at the shattered driver's side window. The young officer. He crouched down to look inside at us. His expression was calm, almost bored. You boys okay in there? Part 7, Guest of Honor. Is this the final part? I think it might be. I want to kind of scroll so I can know for sure. Oh no. There's a part 8. Well, either way, it's things are heating up, shit's going down. Let's get in part 7, Guest of Honor. Help! Help! The word came out wrong, slurred. My friend, he's hurt. The cop reached in and checked on Carl, felt for a pulse. This one's breathing. He called over his shoulder, and more hands appeared, opening Carl's door. The metal groaned as they unbuckled him and pulled him through. His head lolled back and his arms dragged through the glass. Careful! I tried to reach out, but couldn't. Please! They laid Carl in the snow outside. I could see him through the caved-in windshield, face down, not moving. They rolled him over to check him again. Then I saw it, the gun. It must have fallen from Carl's jacket in the crash. Just lying there in the red-stained snow, the young cop picked it up and turned it over in his hands, looked back at his partner, then tucked it into his belt. My vision was blurring when he came back to my window and started working on my seatbelt. Just hold still. Just hold still. What are you doing? I swung at him, but my fist had no strength behind it. He caught my wrist and held it. Don't fight me, son. Let go of me. The older cop appeared behind him. His face was harder, less patient. Need help? He's fighting. They both reacted, reached in with hands on my arms and shoulders, pulling. My seatbelt released and I dropped into their grip. They dragged me out through the window and my broken leg caught, the pain white hot, blinding. My screams echoed in the cold trees above. My leg wouldn't work. I looked down at it and the angle was bad, bone pushing against skin, making it look curved. I started crawling, using my arms to drag myself through the snow towards Carl. The older cop's boots stepped into my path. Stop. He crouched down and looked me in the eye. His expression was blank, empty. I told you the road was closed. Just let us go. The cop stood quickly and his boot came down hard. I saw it coming, but I couldn't move fast enough. The soul filled my vision. It was a dull impact. My nose crunched and I felt my teeth cut the inside of my lips. Everything tilted sideways and then went black. I faded in and out, only catching pieces of what was happening. Their hands were under my arms, lifting me. My head hung forward and my legs dragged behind. I heard voices, but they were muffled like I was underwater. Back seat. Watch his head. Doesn't matter now. Cold vinyl pressed against my cheek and the smell of stale coffee and old cigarettes. The police car. I was in the back. Everything was too heavy and my vision was swimming. Through the window, I could see trees moving by fast, blurred, going the wrong direction, back toward town. I blinked and was gone again, into black. When I finally surfaced, the car had stopped. Doors were open and hands were pulling me out. I could see it was evening now. The sun was setting and the sky looked like a fresh bruise, orange, red, and purple, all bleeding together. My vision wouldn't focus. Everything had edges that didn't line up, and my eyes ached when I tried. They carried me, and my head bobbed with each step. I saw only the ground for a long time, snow, more boots. Then we stopped. I fought to tilt my head up. The field opened in front of me, town hall rising at the edge, and people. Everywhere I looked, there was people. There were people. So many, more than I'd ever seen, all gathered around the center of the field, around the mound. Sound washed over me. Music, drums pounding, deep and chilling. People were chanting words I didn't understand, their voices rising and falling together in strange waves. I tried to focus, but everything kept sliding out of my sight and back into blur. Closer now. I was being carried toward them. The people parted when we approached and made a slithering path through their bodies like a river. Torches were stuck in the ground everywhere, fires burning in wicker bowls. The flames made the shadows of the night sway and shift, made everything seem to move, even when it was still standing. The people were dancing, writhing, bodies pressed together with skin slick with sweat despite the cold, moving as one mass. Some were clothed, some weren't. All moving to the drumming, to the chanting. Something was primal about it all, something old from before, just bodies and fires, rhythm and need. My vision cleared for a brief moment, and I saw a woman's face, eyes closed, her head thrown back, hair wild and mouth open in ecstasy, or was it agony? I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell which. Others crowded behind her, with many hands on her hips, writhing in movement, others all around them doing the same. Just past them, past it all, deeper into the festival grounds, to the center of everything. the mound. Adrenaline flooded me. Everything sharpened and came into focus. It was massive, bigger than it looked before, maybe 40 feet across at the base, rising from the frozen earth like a sickly tumor, like something that shouldn't exist. And it was moving, the whole surface rising and falling in a slow, steady rhythm, breathing. The thing was breathing. I fought to catch my own breath as I realized it was alive. And the holes, God, the holes covered everything. They were all across the surface, all different sizes and depths, like a honeycomb made of flesh. Like a honeycomb made of flesh, crooked and organic and alive. The openings were irregular, hard to look at. Some even collapsed at the edges like old scars. The largest of them were dark inside with steam rising into the cold air. Others had something vile looking stretched over them, membranes, thin and translucent like skin, veiny. I could see pale shapes moving underneath, bulging against the membrane, pushing outward. My stomach rolled hard, sour climbing up my throat. I went to look away, but couldn't. They lowered me down in front of one of the open holes. It was wide enough to fit a person inside easily. The edges were slick and glistening in the firelight. The inside was completely dark and wet. I could feel heat coming up from it. Could smell something foul rising out of the heat. Sweat, sweet and rotten at the same time, like fruit that had gone bad, like meat left out in the sun. No, my voice barely worked anymore. Please, God. Nobody answered me. The drumming grew louder, faster, moaning, screaming. Chanting became more urgent. They picked me up and turned to position me with my bare feet towards the wet, open maw. I was naked completely. They must have stripped me while I was out. I felt the cold air blow across my skin, exposed, helpless. I looked down at myself and then up at the men holding me. They weren't in their uniforms anymore. Dark robes hung from their shoulders, bare chests painted with spirals of mud. They didn't look at me, wouldn't, just held me over the hole and waited. I tried to fight them, tried to struggle, but my body wouldn't respond anymore. Everything felt distant and disconnected from my mind. My feet went in first. The ungodly warmth hit them immediately. It was wrong. The chamber swallowed my ankles, then my calves. The bone fragments in my leg flared with piercing pain when I tried to protest. The walls inside were soft, yielding, and alive, pressing against me from all sides and pulsing with the same rhythm as the mound's breathing. Waist deep, the walls contracted around me, holding tight and drawing me deeper into itself. I grabbed desperately at the rim as my chest sank lower. Couldn't grip the wet edge. Someone peeled my fingers away. Please don't do this. My shoulders descended, and then my head. I looked at the darkening sky, at the people, writhing madmen watching me disappear into the warmth, into the wet, pressing darkness. I couldn't breathe. The walls pressed in close and undulated from every direction, sucking me down deeper into the mound. I was pushing hard against the walls with my hands, but they pushed back, contracting, forcing me deeper still. A deep vibration rumbled all around me. I felt like my eardrums would burst. The people above cheered in response to it. Then one of those membranes started sliding across the opening. Then one of those membranes started sliding across the opening like an eyelid, a pale sheet sliding shut, closing me inside. No! I screamed and pushed upward. My fingers hit the dense, slick flesh. I tried to tear through, but I couldn't grip it. I clawed desperately with my nails as panic rose in my throat. It was no use. I could still see light. I could still see light through it, like looking through a bat's wing. Shadows moving above in the flickering flames. The walls clenched me tight, and I tried to push upward with everything I had left. Tried, but my feet couldn't find the bottom. My lungs were screaming now. I couldn't breathe, and the air was hot and humid. Then I felt something else, liquid, warm fluid touching my toes and climbing toward my legs, rising up from below. I couldn't see it, but I felt it creeping up my body, thick and oily, coating my skin. The smell was much stronger now. That sweet rot, heavy and viscous. This was it. I was going to drown here. Drown in this thing, in this hole. The last bit of light faded completely. I could feel it rising up my neck, touching my chin, my lips. I kept them pressed tightly together and held my breath with everything I had, but it kept rising. I was completely submerged. Total blackness. I couldn't hold my breath any longer. I gasped. The liquid rushed into my mouth, racing down my throat, filling my lungs, warm and choking. My arms and legs thrashed wildly, looking for anything, any escape. I was drowning, dying. Then something impossible happened. Okay, pause. So I was trying not to pause too much because the story was, we've kind of hit a rhythm. And so I was trying to just kind of keep pushing through, but I do want to talk about some things. So, I know I made kind of a comment about, focus on the road and just get out of town. But I understand that, like, they have to get brought back to the town. And I kind of liked that. I thought it was just going to be another, like, big thing in the road, but I kind of just liked that it was another cop car, and the cop car just caused them to crash. And so it's like, yeah, well, obviously the police are in on it. We knew that going in. And so, like, that does make sense. I'm fine with that. I don't think that, like, hurts the story at all. I think there could have been a lot of things around the corner, right? Really anything that causes them to lose control of the vehicle pretty much makes sense to me. And I really like kind of all the part where it just talks about, I saw the flashes, I saw the sunset, the cop punches him or kicks him, obviously. So it's like, we know that the police are evil, you know what I mean? It doesn't leave any kind of open-ended, and he's immediately at this ritual then, so it's like kind of like time has passed, and maybe he's drugged or something, but all of a sudden he's there. I do kind of wish maybe, I know that it says this, there was the stuff in other languages, but I do kind of wish there was maybe something about, like, and I'm thinking we still will find this out, but maybe something about, like, are they putting everyone into this membrane, this creature, this mound that's in the ground, this fleshy mound, are they putting, like, is everybody entering it and then coming out? Um, we don't know. Or because my kind of thing is like, if this mound thing is their god, why would they just put this dude who isn't from their community in it? That seems like a big honor or whatever. So, but who knows? Those questions still could be answered. I do kind of like how it's like it's frozen or whatever, right? Or it talks about it being like mottled in black and looking wrong. Like he's seen, because they were starting to clear it off before, and every time he saw it, it kind of looked wrong, right? And now we see it like in its full form on the day of the festival, and it's like it's fleshy, it's all that stuff. I don't know how to say this. So all that stuff was really cool, and I like the part about it being honeycombed, and the membranes on certain parts, and then just the dark holes on other parts. I think that all that's really cool. I do hesitate a little bit when there's these kind of Lovecraftian like monsters, and they just end up being like a flesh ball or like a flesh mound or what, like. And it mentioned some other stuff like veiny parts and just other things. So I'm not saying that that's all that it was, but I do think that yeah, that is that if you're gonna do that, or if you're gonna have something like that in your story, or even if your monster is like this amalgamous flesh monster, I think you really do have to be specific with it. And because that's a very common, seems like a lot of horror in a lot of like creepypastas and stuff, they kind of steer in that direction. They go to like the flesh that hates area, or the flesh kind of monster. So I do think it helps to have like a specific, like other specific elements besides it was just a ball of flesh, or it was just this creature, this that looked like 50 humans all squashed together and had an arm sticking out of its head and all that stuff. Like that's all cool and like gross and very like the thing-esque almost. But also I think it's important that like as writers and just like as like horror story creators, that you find ways to make that sort of your own. And I think this writer did do that with like the honeycomb elements and like the membranes and stuff, and the fact that he gets eaten by it, that he actually gets fed into this thing, I think is really where the story is really starting to shine, because it's really feeding on that claustrophobia and that the liquid boiling up and him swallowing it and aspirating it into his lungs and it filling his lungs. All that is very real and good, and I really like that. I really like that our narrator gets fed to this god, this monster, whatever it is. It's just when I like that it's kind of like a nest and maybe even like a rebirth sort of a thing. I think that that's cool. I just, whenever I read in a story that they're like, it was just a mound of flesh, or it was, uh, you know, that just me, it always makes me kind of do a little bit of a double take, or a little bit of a, it makes me a little bit weary, because I'm like, I've read this a lot, right? And so that's why I just want to bring it up. Not that this story is like being too cliche or anything like that, because I think that it did make it its own, and it has the monsters outside of this mound and stuff. And so I think that all that's good. I just want to bring it up as like an example of this is a good way that you make it your own, but you also want to just be careful that, like, as writers, we don't just devolve into, well, the monster was a creepy, fleshy amalgamation of a few different creatures or this or that. Like, because I do think that, like, that's gross, and you can describe the smells and the all that stuff, and it can be gross and creepy. But I think that, like, our imagination as writers, like, we can do more, right? We can build on that. If we want it to be like a fleshy pit that somebody goes into, and the whole, like, it's breathing thing, it's like, well, what else are the qualities of it? Is it a creature in and of itself, or is it a nest that grows other creatures? And then if that's the case, maybe are there some creatures that are like babies still? Like, maybe you see like embryos or something. And so I'm saying that whatever your kind of version, if you're going to do a flesh mound or a flesh creature thing, whatever your version of that is, just make sure that you're finding ways to make it your own and make it unique and build upon the idea of a mound of flesh that could be any sort of organic living thing. And if it is something, if it is something that grows other creatures or that brings the dead back to life, like, describe that in such a way that makes sense for the actual, like, for the actual task that this thing is trying to do. Like, if it's bringing the dead back to life, then it would make sense how it's like, well, some of it smells like death and rot, and then some of it smells sweet and whatever, like, because it would have this like life cycle-esque element to it. And so, yeah, I want to kind of bring that up and then say that, like, to me, it really shines with the claustrophobia of it and the fact that he gets fed to it. And I really like that element. And yeah, I think that, right now I'm looking for more explanation on, like, why are they feeding him to it, but maybe we'll get to that. I think hopefully we'll get to that soon, but yeah, it's just interesting. But I liked the whole bacchanal pagan ritual where they're drumming and the languages that are unknown, and the I think it was like the sigils or something, the mud, on people's bodies and stuff. And I think that's really fun. I also think it's worth mentioning, like, is the whole community here? It said that there was men and women. Is it old and young? Is everybody young? Like, maybe that's what this is. Maybe this is a ritual of it. It keeps people young. Maybe that's what's kind of happening here. So we don't know, right? And, like, are there children there? I mean, I hope not, because there's like naked people and shit running around. But maybe that's part of this fucked up nature of this village, is that children are a part of this thing too, and they all get fed to it or come out of it. Or maybe when they come out younger, and so the children stay at home and the children are sleeping, because they first need to grow old to then be kind of reborn. I don't know, but it's very cool scene. It works well. I do think that I hesitate to even say this note, because I think that some parts, or not some parts, but this author does a very good job of having, like, a good clipped precise pace through the whole thing. Like, he really doesn't linger on any parts more than any others, and it kind of just moves the story along at a very steady pace that I really kind of have appreciated throughout the whole part, or throughout the whole story thus far. I do think with parts like the actual ritual going on around him, or the physical part of being fed into it, I do think he could, if he wanted to, and this is just if you want to, OssuaryNelms, or, you know, I think your name's Aaron, yeah, but, and this is just if you want to know, like, you are competent as a writer, you're good, so if there's a time where you want to linger a little bit longer, and, like, really get more descriptive with some things and really like feed into the imagery of it, feel free to do so. I mean, obviously this is the way you wrote it. You would write it the way you want to write it anyways, so you don't need me to tell you that. But I just want to say that, like, you seem to have a great instinct for pacing, and have a great, like, you say enough, you get your point across. You aren't one of these writers that's like, you know, taking 2 pages to describe somebody's like jacket or like a house, you know what I mean? And I appreciate that, because there are some writers that I read that are like really dense like that, and they're spending like half a page describing a sunset or something like that, which is fine too. But I'm just saying that, you know, because the story is paced so good thus far, that I wouldn't mind if on parts like this that are the horror's really happening and shit's really going crazy, if you wanted to take a little bit more time, feel free to do so. Like, don't feel like, oh, you know, I have to just move the story along because it, you know, it's like, no, when there are these moments of this creepy, crazy ritual that the whole town's a part of, and people are dancing naked, and the guy's all laying there all fucked up and naked or whatever, with his leg broken, like, feel free to linger a little bit longer in those moments, because I think that, like, yes, you want your story to move along. You don't want people to lose interest, but also you don't want people to go like, well, this was the payoff of the story, and, you know, it was kind of over too quickly. Like, you want to let the reader linger in those fun parts, those creepy, surrealist, insane parts. You want us to be able to kind of linger in those parts with you. So yeah, that's all I'll say. I mean, it's a good story. I'm digging it so far. I really just like the fact that he got fed to this mound. That's very, very fun. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Let's get back into the story now, but I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. I will be right back, and we will keep reading.
The Egyptians traveled, the Greeks traveled, the Vikings traveled.
Yeah.
Everyone had to go there and leave off offerings for it. Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, I eat that
So
shit up,
cool.
dude. I love that.
It was billions of years ago, when our planet was still mostly fire and rock, that a Mars-sized planet that had been drifting through our solar system collided directly with the Earth. The impact was so powerful and violent that the rogue planet was blown into countless pieces of debris. This debris collected to form our moon.
I mean, pretty easily explained. Fragment from a lost planet stuck within the Earth. Blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah.
So it's pretty much being like the mountain is that piece of lodged moon.
Yeah, or something within the mountain. Yeah.
Sure.
Adams Police Department, dispatcher Carey speaking.
Yes, I'm calling to report a break-in at my coworker's house.
Oh.
Can you tell me if anybody hurt? Liam, are you still with me?
Yes, sorry.
Is anybody hurt?
Yes.
Well, Don, you shouldn't have done that.
Shouldn't have done that. Also, the face that was imposed over him on the news broadcast is exactly what his body looks like.
Yeah, it's basically just like a I don't know if it's foretelling or if it had already happened or something by the time the broadcast went. The broadcast was probably live, so it was probably just a foretelling of his passing, of his autopsy photo.
So whatever hacked it is like temporal, right?
Yeah.
Or it can skip temporal, you know what I mean?
I witnessed many altars constructed out of the mountain stone, along with evidence of mass animal and human sacrifice. There's something in that mountain. Something people of countless cultures over the history of our planet have been worshipping, but I don't know why. I swear I could hear a voice and even felt compelled to go further.
Of course, my fucking alarm goes off while I'm trying to go to the bathroom. That's just what's so nice about phones and alarms is you set them, and then on the weekends when you don't need them, they still go off, and then they bother you. And I know I could turn it off for the weekends, but then I worry that the one day I'm gonna need it, then it's not gonna go off because I'm gonna turn it on thinking that it'll happen every day, and it doesn't. Even though I know I can see that on the alarm too, so and it's so annoying. Anyways, back to the story. What are we thinking? Is anyone still with us? Are you still here? It's okay if you're not, chat. I guess I just want to make sure that like my internet didn't die out or something, and actually no one's gonna be able to watch this. Okay, no. Still says we're live, so we're good. Alright. So yeah, those are just kind of like my notes about this climactic part, but we're still not even to the actual end of the story yet. Like, we still have one more part to go after this, so I'm thinking he is gonna be changed. Yep, just pop back in. You're still alive. Hell yeah. Cool. I am gonna just lay a prediction here that I do think I mean, this had to be the mound has to be the way that these creatures get made, right? So he has to be one of these creatures now, I would think. And now I'm thinking that he's not going to be able to ever leave this place now because he's going to need this ritual to kind of keep him alive or something, you know? So he's just been eaten by the mound. He just got in it. He was drowning. He was dying. Then something impossible happened. I was breathing, drawing the liquid in and pushing it back out somehow. The panic started to fade, and something in my head was going quiet. The part that screamed and fought and wanted to survive, wanted to escape. It was getting quieter with each breath. I don't know how long I was in there. Time stopped meaning anything. I'd surface to consciousness for moments, feel the warmth, pulse of the walls, the liquid filling my lungs. Then I'd slip away again into nothing. Each time I came back, I felt different. The pain in my leg was gone. I was calmer each time, like the terror was draining out of me with each breath, fear fading. I should have fought against it, should have held on to my panic, but I didn't. I let it take me. It felt easier this way. Then everything changed. The walls around me contracted hard, squeezed tight, and I felt myself being forced upward. The membrane above tore, and I was moving through it, being expelled. Cold air hit me, gas, choked, coughing up iridescent bile. My body convulsed as I tried to remember how to breathe again, how to do anything. Hands grabbed me and pulled me the rest of the way out, laid me on the freezing hard ground. I couldn't see. Everything was too bright, too much. The torches, the fires, all of it burning into my eyes. Slowly, my hearing came back, the drums, the chanting, all of it crashing over me again. I blinked, trying to focus. There were shapes moving around me, between the people, moving around through the crowd. The same shapes I'd seen that night clinging to the eave. There were dozens of them. They were massive, hunched, moving in a lurching gait, their skin mottled and slick, dark greens and browns that caught in the light of the fire. Their mouths were too wide, lipless. Their eyes bulged out sickly from the sides of their heads. I watched one move past me, its legs bent backwards at the knee, then forward again at another unimaginable joint. It took long, uneven steps. There were so many of them, mixed in with the celebrating townspeople, part of the festival, part of the ritual. My stomach turned. One of them was coming toward me, closer. Its arms were too long, joints bending in places they shouldn't, ending in webbed hands with barbed claws, curved like fish hooks. And that mouth, God, that mouth stretched too far across its terrible face. Rows of needle teeth shifted inside, layered and restless. It crouched beside me, squatting low, and reached out toward me with those hands. I willed myself to move, to recoil, but nothing happened. It felt like I was bound in place. The creature touched me, its claws sliding across my chest, my arms wiping away the congealed oil that covered me. It tugged at something still clinging to me, the membrane. It was wrapped around me like skin, translucent flesh stuck to me like afterbirth. It tore the mass away gently, almost carefully. It looked up into my face, those horrible, turgid eyes. They were sad, and in that moment I knew them. I knew those eyes. Mrs. Dunsley. The world stopped. Everything else faded. The drums, the fire, all of it disappeared. And there was just her, just eyes looking back at me with such sorrow, such understanding. This thing, it was her, Mrs. Dunsley. She tried to warn me, tried to help me when no one else would. She was still in there, still aware, still trying to help me, even now, showing kindness, even like this. I tried to speak, to say her name, to ask her what was happening. Instead of my voice, only a sound came out, a deep, deep and wet croak that vibrated from somewhere deep inside my chest. Not my voice, not human. That's when I looked down. My arms, they were too long, the skin mottled and dark and slick with that same mucus, long webbed fingers spread open in front of my face. Every part of me felt stretched and changed. My spine ached as I tried to stand up straight, but I couldn't. Legs bent and wobbly. Nothing was where it should be. I trembled as I reached up to touch my face, the shape of it, my jaw, my mouth, bony and arched backwards towards my. I ran my swollen tongue over my teeth. There were so many, all sharp, thin, and wrong. I tried to scream, tried to cry, but only the croaking came out. The music swelled, pounding, chanting quickened with it. The voices climbed over one another. I looked out across the festival with these new eyes, taking in the climax of movement and light. Banners thrashed in the wind. Fresh snow had started falling again, disappearing the moment it touched the fires. Then I saw him. Across the field at the far end, a wooden structure rose against the night sky. Huge posts driven into the ground, jutting up. Cross beams formed a raised platform, crude, primitive, built for one purpose. Carl was tied to the center post, ropes cutting into his chest, his arms, his legs. He thrashed against them, pulling so hard the whole structure shook. His face turned toward the crowd, the creatures, the mound. Looking around wildly, dried blood still streaked his face from the crash. A spiral painted on his forehead, his mouth open wide, screaming my name, screaming for help that wouldn't come. Part 8, Hope. Alright, let's get into it. I moved toward him without thinking. My legs carried me forward in a stumbling lurch. I had to help him, had to get him free. Carl saw me coming. His eyes went wide, pure terror. He thrashed against the ropes, pulling, kicking. The wood groaned with his panic. Get away from me! His voice cracked, raw. Stay back! I wanted to speak, to tell him it was me, that I was still here, still his friend. Only that sound came out, deep and wet, the croaking that made his face twist up in horror. I reached for the ropes with webbed hands, trying to untie them, free him. My claws fumbled at the knots. Carl kicked at me, his boot connected hard with my chest. I stumbled back, but kept coming. Had to help him, had to. And something else spoke in my head directly to me. My voice, not my thoughts. Feed. My jaw opened wider than it should. Bone hinges stretching. I was moving forward again, hands reaching. No, I didn't want to do this, but I was still reaching for him. Carl's thrashing grew even more violent, desperate. Here, the rope loosened. One arm came free, then another. He tore at the ropes around his legs. I tried to retreat, to give him space, but my limbs wouldn't listen. Hunt. Carl was free and kicked away from the platform, landing with a widened thud. Rolled, got up, and was already running. Every creature in the festival turned at once. So did I. The instinct was sharp, immediate. My body moved before I could stop it, running, chasing, all of us chasing. Carl sprinted through the festival grounds, dodging between fires, between the tangle of townspeople who just watched, who didn't help, didn't stop us. We followed the things moving in those lurching bounds, covering ground fast, so very fast. I was among them, running, my legs pumping. Moving felt strange, but it came easily. I wanted to stop, wanted to let him go, but couldn't. Carl grabbed one of the large wicker bowls as he passed, the fire inside burning hot. He threw it behind him. It toppled, spilled, hot coals scattering across the ground, sparks flying up into the night. The ones in front pulled back from the flames. We hesitated. Carl got ahead, made it to the edge of the field, into the shadowed streets beyond. I could hear his shaking breath from so far away, smell his sweat. We followed through the narrow streets between dark houses, our croaking echoing off the walls, that horrible sound multiplied by dozens of throats. Carl ran down Main Street, cars parked along both sides. He grabbed door handle after handle, locked, next car locked. He was pulling frantically at each one. We grew closer, then one finally opened, the police car. He dove inside. I saw him grab something from the seat, the gun. He came out firing. One shot into the air above our heads. It was deafening. A second shot went wide as he turned, kept running. We all scattered, taking cover. I dropped to squat behind an old truck, my body doing it instinctively, legs folding. Carl ran more distance. We got back up, moving again. I was up too, chasing. They were faster than me, stronger. I was new, unsteady. The other creature leaped from the street to rooftops in one bound, climbed up the side of buildings like it was flat ground. I ran. All I could do was run on all fours like an animal, head low, body lunging forward. I fell behind. The others were ahead of me now, rumbling croaks. Carl was out of sight now, but still we surged forward, searching. The others bounded ahead, roof to roof, effortless. My body knew how. Some instinct and new muscles. I needed to follow them. A low building just ahead. I could reach that. I ran and jumped hard. My legs exploded with power I didn't expect. I flew through the air and slammed onto the roof too hard. Rotten shingles collapsed instantly under my weight, and I fell through into darkness. I landed hard onto my side, old wood and debris. Dust bloomed up everywhere, an abandoned house. I pulled myself up and shook off the impact. The fall would have killed me before. Now stronger. Just a distant throb where pain should have been. That's when I heard it breathing, fast and shallow, close. I moved toward it, slowly, carefully. A shape moved in the shadows, stepped into the shaft of moonlight. I wanted to be anyone else, wanted to have him, lost him in the chase, but it was Carl standing there, gun raised. Gun raised at me, shaking. Don't. His voice was hoarse, broken whisper. Don't come any closer. I tried. I stopped, tried to speak again to make him understand. Nothing but the croak came out. I reached out slowly, showing him I wouldn't hurt him. My webbed hands extended. Please, Carl. It's me. Look at my eyes. See me. Please know it's me. But he just stepped away, the gun still trained. His fingers shivered on the trigger. Get away. Get away. He shuffled backwards towards the rear of the house, towards a broken door frame that led outside. I followed slow, trying not to scare him more than he already was, trying to show I was still here. He stumbled out into the snow, into the woods, away from the street, away from the sounds of the others searching. I understood. He didn't want to shoot. At least not here. The others would hear, would come running. I was surprised they didn't already know. I could feel our minds braiding together into one jagged, pulsing thing with every passing second. We walked like that for a while, him backing up, me following, the gun always pointed true. We left the houses behind, the trees, the town, the festival. It all felt so far away from us now, just pine trees, falling snow, just us like before. Carl stopped, planted his feet. The gun was steady. I took a single step forward when I saw it in his face, the decision, the acceptance of what he had to do. His finger tightened on the trigger, trembling. Please. I wanted to close my eyes, couldn't. Could only watch him, my best friend, the person who'd come to save me. The gun roared, flash of the muzzle. The bullet hit high in the center of my chest. The impact drove me backwards, and I fell into the snow. Pain. The first familiar feeling inside this terrible body. I looked down, wretched, and saw the oily blood spreading across my chest, soaking into the snow around me. Spreading stain. When I looked back up, Carl was standing there, face still twisted up, horror and determination and survival. He didn't know it was me. He would never know. Maybe it was better this way. That's when I heard the others coming fast. They were close. He only had seconds. Heard the voice in my head. Kill. He was already running deeper into the woods, into the black, his footsteps crunching through snow, getting quieter, farther away. I lay there, my vision starting to fade at the edges, blood pumping out around the ground with each heartbeat, each cough and croak, each harder than the last. I could still see him between the trees, his distant shape moving, getting smaller, disappearing into the night. Run, please. Please make it. The snow was falling, landing on my face, on my eyes, cold, and everything was getting dim, smaller. Just the wind through the trees, and somewhere far away I could hear those drums still pounding. Carl's shape disappeared completely. I hoped, God, I hope he made it out. My last thought as everything went dark, I hoped. Damn, and that is the end of Festival Mound. That was great. I mean, let me think. Give it a... I think what I like most about the story is definitely at the beginning, you don't think it's going to be like a bat werewolf transformation story kind of. And so it really does a good job of not tipping its hand in that way. And even though I did give him the note in an earlier stream that I want him to add more lore, I certainly don't want there to be like, you know, pictures of this creature like in a book or something that he finds at the local library. You know what I mean? Like, I don't necessarily want it to be that obvious. I think there's ways that he could, you know, the author, Aaron, I think that, you know, he could hint of like the pagan elements or like what, you know, what language they might be speaking kind of at the end and have hints of that earlier on so that even if we still don't know what language, it's like, well, we know it's like a Nordic language or we know it's like, you know, something like that. So there's little things that I think he could do to add more to the lore, right? But this certainly didn't, and I still don't know if it's a straight up werewolf story. I think they certainly are werewolf-like in their creatures, or in just the description of the creatures. You know, they have too long of arms, these sort of backwards, like dog, you know, esque legs, like, you know, so, you know, they're kind of not bipedal, quadrupedal, and Yeah, so I think that the story did a very good job of not tipping its hand and then getting there and then doing all the stuff that I kind of wanted it to do when I was like, oh, he's going to be transformed. Like he went into the mound, so he has to come out one of these creatures. And then sure enough, he does. And we also got that Mrs. Dunsley became one of the creatures. Now, why she became one of the creatures? Is it because she tried to tip him off? And so they're like, now you have to become one too. I'm thinking that's maybe what happened. And then they just cleaned out her house because they're like, well, she's one of them now. She doesn't need a house anymore. That sort of a thing. And I do like that Carl got away. I think it's just as easily you could have had a horrifying ending of him eating his best friend or him, the other monsters eating him, or you could have had a self-sacrifice thing where maybe he was being controlled by like the herd, the mound mentality, the herd mentality of these creatures. But maybe at the end he's able to kind of rise above it and he could attack one of his fellow creatures and give the time for Carl to escape. So I think that like stuff like that could have happened, but I also like this ending where he's still just trying to follow him, but he doesn't fully intend on attacking him. He wants Carl to know that it's him. Carl just ends up having to make the tough choice of I just need to shoot this thing and get away. And I kind of like that he dies just or presumably dies just hoping that Carl does get away. And it seems like, we don't know for sure that Carl had a happy ending, but he certainly has a chance, right? He has maybe more of a chance than it seemed like, when he was tied to the post or whatever. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this, especially once it got to the festival and the transformation part. I think the rest of it was pretty sick. I think there's a lot of different ways you could have taken it, and all of them are pretty cool. But I also just kind of liked the whole, like, our narrator couldn't fully fight it, but he also didn't stop knowing that was his friend and that he wanted his friend to survive, And so it was kind of like this weird thing where it's like, I have to follow him, but I want him to get away, And that's kind of a fun, will he, won't he? It builds a lot of suspense there. I do think that maybe there was some way that even after he gets killed or he gets shot by Carl, that maybe then Carl could realize, holy shit, that was my friend. And that would just set it up for maybe a fun sequel if you ever wanted to do a sequel, or just that would just set it up as like a fun, oh my god, the monster was in my own backyard, or not that my friend was a monster the whole time, but these bastards turned us against each other, because that is the one thing that really is kind of what maybe not sets the story apart, but at least like sets the relationship apart that Carl and the narrator have, is that like Carl is such a good friend, right? So it would kind of be the ultimate irony that Carl came here to save his friend, and then in order to save himself he had to kill his friend. Now that irony happened either way. I mean, he did shoot his friend once he turned into this monster, but it doesn't seem like Carl realized that, and maybe that's what the narrator wanted, or not the narrator. Maybe that's what the narrator wanted and the writer wanted. He was like, Carl's been tortured enough. He doesn't need to know that he likely killed his friend or whatever. But yeah, I think it's an interesting like take on it. I think I think that although like there were definitely brutal parts and whatever, I certainly don't. I think it could have gotten a lot more fucked up at the end, like in terms of he could have eaten Carl, or him and Carl could have like killed each other straight up, you know. So it would have been that like horrible thing of Carl's not going to make it back to his family either, you know. So it ends a little bit hopeful, and that's what I think it means by like the I hope. Yes, it's saying, or the hope is part 8, but I think it's also saying that, you know, there is kind of hope for Carl. So I kind of like that ending, but yeah, all in all, I think it was a unique story. It was a cool cult pagan thing, but then it was also a really cool creature feature at the end, and it had a strong like claustrophobia horror build up, but it then also had a really strong like monster and pagan creepy cult town, you know what I mean? There's a lot of it did a good job of combining several different types of horror, you know, genres, which I liked, and it kind of kept us guessing till the end almost about what it was. Was it going to be fully a monster thing, or fully a cosmic Lovecraftian horror with the mound that's breathing in the earth? And it kind of did them all pretty well. I think it did a good job of kind of weaving all these different types of horror together in an interesting way. Like I kind of said in the beginning, I do think there's more time earlier on in the story where you could add some lore and some elements that kind of just add more texture to the story. You know what I mean? Yeah, just some more like lore or texture, and then there were certain lines here and there that I was like again with the flesh and the breathing flesh mound, I was kind of like, you know, it's just something that I've seen before. It's not that it's like inherently wrong or you can't do it, but it's just something to where I was like, you know, okay, where's this going, you know, and just, you know, like certain things of like, yeah, I like that they're webbed hands. I think that that's really interesting. You know, I guess, you know, maybe dogs do have like webbed feet, so maybe werewolf would have webbed, you know, that's how they doggy paddle or whatever, but it also made me think like, well, maybe they're not just straight up werewolves, maybe they're like bat wolves, or, you know, who knows. And there was like I don't know, there were some parts in maybe the describing of the I'm trying to maybe find it. Maybe it was just like with the bones cracking and the sweet. Oh, that was just one thing I was gonna say too. It wasn't, whenever people say the smelled sweet and rotten, they always kind of use that analogy of like, they said like rotten fruit, or, and but then it said, or meat left out in the heat or like in the sun. And I actually like the meat in the heat one better because it blended itself to the inside of the thing and how it's warm. It's cold outside, but inside this breathing mound, it's hot. And so I actually like that second one better. It's just another thing where I have to be like, I just have to, as someone who reads a lot of these types of stories, when people describe rot, they almost always describe the rotten fruit. like it's sweet, but it's also gross, like rotten fruit. And maybe that is the best way to describe that. So a lot of people just use that analogy. I think that like if I was writing that part, I think rather than just say rotten fruit, I would just say it smells like a refrigerator that has something rotten left in it, but you can't find out what it is. You know, because I would just find a way to try to make that a little bit more like visceral and a little bit more like I would try to write that in such a way so that it reminds the reader of a time when they've actually smelled rotten fruit rather than just go, oh, you know, like rotten fruit. Because although most people have smelled that before, I think that, like, I don't know, the imagery of that and the sensory writing of that, to me it works a lot better if I can like that's why I liked the meat left out in the sun or whatever, because then I just pictured like a steak or a raw steak or something like withering away in the sun, and it painted a better picture in my head and made the smell of it smell a little bit more real, rather than just when you say like rotten fruit. Of course that has some meaning, but I also think that it's just really overly used. So yeah, there were just a few little things like that, but overall I think it's like a very well written, fun story that really builds it up as one thing and then kind of subverts that and changes it, and then builds it up as this other thing, but then kind of goes back and goes, oh wait, maybe it's still the first thing that you thought, but also something else. And so it really does a good job of keeping me guessing till the end, and that's why I think I had so much fun reading it, is because it really ended up being all of those things. And you know, the townspeople really weren't, they were all out to get him exactly like we thought that they were. But then also you had the one neighbor who tried to warn him and tried to help him, and then she ended up getting turned into one of these creatures too. So really it all ended up being true, and it's like both the worst and the best intentions ended up being, you know, or not the best intentions, but all of his suspicions, both about people being bad and evil and also good and trying to help him, all of them turned out to be true, and he still ended up getting turned. So I think that is kind of cool too, because it's like, well, you were right to trust the neighbor, but you were also wrong, and that you never should have came to this town in the first place, and they were out to get you from the very start. You know what I mean? So it kind of it's very fun in that way, because it does a good job of mind fucking you and being like, well, this can be true, but guess what? This thing can also be true, you know? And that's where I think maybe it is the most, that is maybe the one of the most, like subtly terrifying parts about the story is we've all had the sense of like being in a new place or a new town and feeling like people are distrustful or not trusting of you, right? Or distrustful of you. And so there's that very familiar feeling, and just really kind of cranking that up to like 11, and the whole time being like, am I doing something wrong? Am I being weird? Or are all these people being weird? You know? And it's just that like very human, like social interaction fear that people have, that is just fun to kind of amp up. And I really I liked that part, those parts in the stories, and I liked like the postal worker like not wanting to talk to him and just all that sort of little stuff. I think that that is that it's fun to like live in that area of the horror. So I think the first part did a good job of that, and I would even like to see like more of that like played out just in other stories, or as if there are going to be changes to the story going forward in the future, like, you know, lots of weird interactions with town folk. Those are just such fun for us as a reader, because it's like the stakes aren't that high yet, but it's also like we've all had those situations where it's just like, that fucking guy was so weird, or they did this thing, and why the fuck would they do that? And I just love like when horror just plays on that, because it's such a relatable like error or area of uncanniness, you know. It's just really fun. So yeah. But thank you. I mean, thank you to OssuaryNelms. That was fucking awesome. The Festival Mound people, give it up. I think the story's doing well, even on Tales from the Creep. Yeah, I mean, 13 comments, 35 upvotes. You know, that's pretty well. That's pretty high for a lot of stories that I've seen on Tales from the Creeps. And so I think, you know, just shout out to you, Aaron, and keep writing and keep plugging away. Don't let No Sleep and their restrictive ass rules and shit get to you, because that, you know, that is just the name of the game these days. They fuck with everyone. They shut down everyone, it seems like. Maybe there are some people that don't have any problem posting on No Sleep today, but I've never met someone who's like, they love all my stories, and, you know, yada yada. I don't know if that type of story, or if that type of No Sleep exists these days. So we'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to. I'll have to do. I have had some ideas about like doing a deep dive and just trying to interview like people from people who both have posted a lot on No Sleep, and then maybe people who have gotten completely banned or whatever for no reason and have never been able to post on there. And I just think it's worth like talking about a little bit more in depth, because yeah, I don't know. It's just the whole moderator joke. It's like Discord mods are the worst, or Reddit mods are the worst, like, you know, the Meat Canyon videos. But I do think it's kind of worth pointing out just how crazy that subreddit's gotten. But I mean, I get it. It's a popular subreddit, so whatever. But yeah, thank you so much to OssuaryNelms. Go follow him, follow his Substack, upvote, you know, comment on his story, watch the YouTube videos of his of the reading of this story. I think it's something Scream. I think it is what it name of the I think it's like Whispering Scream or something like that. But yeah, support them, follow them on Reddit and their Substack, and yeah, thank you to you for writing such a fun story. And then yeah, I think that's gonna do it for me today. I don't think I want to, because yeah, there's something under the boardwalk that we could finish. We also have Guts Part 3, which is the final part of this story. And we probably will continue those you're in the future, you're in a future stream. I just, I'm right now. I also want to maybe get into this story, knock knock, psychological horror. I just right now I'm kind of trying to decide whether I just need to, because I still have so many stories that I have not gotten to on my Tales or on my Calling All Authors post, that I'm kind of just deciding if I want to, do I want to keep reading stories that I've started, or already, or from authors that I've already read some of their work, or do I just want to keep diving into brand new authors? And it's honestly something I really struggle with a lot, and it's very hard for me, not to say, oh, poor me, but I want to be able to read everyone's story, but then also, like Harvey, like I still want to read Mr. Americana. I still want to go on stream and just cover that a lot, because I love what I've read of that story so far too. So it's just something that I struggle with. So if if you have a story that you think I'll like, please send it my way. That's not to say that I don't want people to send me stuff, because I do. It's just one of those things where when they're multi-parters, it's just hard to I never want to just like give up, or I'm not saying I'm giving up on the story, but I never want to feel like I'm giving up on a story, because I want to read every story in its entirety. But then some people, like this one, I think is it Devil's Den? Yeah. And there's part 25, and maybe they're not that long. I don't know how each part is, but it's a lot of parts. So it's like, if I'm gonna start Devil's Den, that's a big commitment. So I really need to I really need to plan that out, and it's just hard. So so with all that being said, send me your stories. Please, I will get to everyone's stories as soon as I can, and try to read them in their entirety. But also, read each other's stories, guys. Support each other. Be good to each other. I hope you enjoyed this Red Death Mass stream. I hope that you are all having good, whatever, Cinco de Mayo coming up. I hope that people are riding a lot, and I hope that, the weather's getting a little bit nicer. I hope that people are having fun and getting out a lot, but then also just having more time to work on their craft and keep coming up with new ideas and new settings and new kind of places where horror can take place, because that's one thing I love so much about Under the Boardwalk, is I love the idea of like a haunted, whatever, creepy boardwalk where all the businesses are dying, but then there's also some other undying Lovecraftian creature underneath it also. That's such a cool idea. I love that. So as we move into the summer months, I think we need to keep in mind that there's a lot of good summer concepts that maybe aren't quite as popular, but certainly can be explored. So I've been toying around with some ideas about, maybe I could host like maybe not a long, maybe like a short story contest. So like under like 1,000 words, or I don't know how long it would be, but something like that, where I could host some sort of a contest and try to have it be a genre like, you know, like summer slashers or something, you know, I don't know, something to where it's a little bit different. Yeah, I've been thinking about ways to try to not only like grow channel but continue to support the Tales from the Creeps community, and just how do I host and inspire people to host these stories and inspire people to keep writing stories. So I've just been thinking about different ideas for stuff like that, but that's all I'll say about it right now. I appreciate you all for stopping by, for hanging out with me. Thank you. Appreciate you all. Remember, the Backrooms comes out, I think, May 26th. Make sure to go see the Backrooms this next month. I'm going to certainly be doing it. Maybe I'll do an entire stream after I watch it where I just talk about it. I don't know. But it should be fun. But thank you, friends and fiends. This has been another Red Death Mask stream. I'll catch you all later. Stay creeped. Adios.